Okay. We're finishing up Perek Daled. We have one last Mishnah in Perek Yud Daled, Mishnah Yud Beis. The previous Mishnah discussed and learned with us the conditions that are needed in order to permit kosher wine to be stored in the property of the Avodah Zarah, to be stored in the idolatrous property. Now this Mishnah will add one more condition. Yesterday in the Mishnah we had two conditions. We'll summarize it all at the end. Today we add an additional condition. So the Mishnah says as follows. If a Jew prepares an idolatrous wine to be kosher, remember yesterday we said that metaher here is not related to Tumah v'Taira, but rather metaher here means making the wine kosher. The Jew prepares an idolatrous wine to be kosher. And until he sells it, he places it in the idolatrous property. In other words, he places it in a house that opens up to a street in a town that has both Jews and idolaters living in it. Jews and Goyim both living in the town. The Rav tells us, the Rav v'holo kosev lo sheniskabalti milchamo es mutar im habayis pasuach l'rshus harabim A and B v'Yisraelim dorim bo'is ha'ir B k'de'amrinan le'el, as we said above in Mishnah Yud Aleph, which means that the Rav is telling us that this Mishnah is speaking about the same case as we had in the previous Mishnah. The same case as we had in the previous Mishnah, that is, in a town that has both Jews and Goyim living in it, and that the house is open to a street. So then what? So what is the case here? So v'halo kosev lo yiskabaltim im chamois. The Goy, the idolater, writes for the Jew a receipt that says, I have received money from you as payment for the wine. That's what the receipt says. I have received money from you as payment for the wine. So that the Jew can then go ahead and remove the wine whenever he wants. What does that mean? That although the idolater has not yet been paid, but he gives the Jew a receipt stating that I received the money. So what does that mean as far as the halacha here is concerned? It means that this allows the Jew to remove the wine from his property at any time as if he had already paid for it. That's what Rashi explains in the Gemara. Which means with this receipt, the Jew, the non-Jew is acknowledging to the Jew, you can now go ahead and take the wine whenever you want, at your convenience. So says the Mishnah Mutar, then the wine is permitted, because since the idolater no longer has any claim to hold on to the wine, he gave a receipt, so he's afraid to be seen entering the building in which the wine is stored. And therefore, this Mishnah is teaching that besides the conditions mentioned in the previous Mishnah, namely, the entrance to the storage building faces the street, and B, there are Jews living in the town. There is also one more condition that we now are learning, one more condition needed in order for the wine to be permitted, that is, that the Goy, that the idolater, must give up any right to hold the wine back. He must give up any authority. He must give up any sense of belonging, of ownership to this wine. The Jew can come and take it, whatever he wants. He can't hold it back. That's condition number 3 that we're now learning. But the Mishnah continues. But in a case where if the Jew would want to remove the wine, but the idolater would not allow him to remove the wine. The non-Jew would not allow him to take the wine until he gives him the money. That is, the idolater did not write a receipt for the money, as we learned in case A. But in practice, he does not let the Jew remove the wine until it is paid for. He wants to have his money. The idolater would not allow him to do so, to take the wine, until he gives him the money and it's fully paid for. Says the Mishnah, this once happened, such a maise happened actually in the town of Beit Shan. Ve'asu chachamim, and the chachamim who were paskening the shaila there, who were asked about this case, they prohibited the wine. Why do they prohibit the wine? Because since the idolater may keep the wine until he is paid, he considers it his own. If he considers it his own, he can do with it as he pleases. And therefore the wine is also because of the concern that he may go ahead indeed and perform a libation with it. So really, this is like the case of an idolater who has a loan against the Jew's wine, where the halacha is that we learned that the wine is also if we find the goy standing next to the wine. Now, although if he's seen entering the place where the wine is stored, he will lose his sale to the Jew, as we learned in Mishnah Yud Aleph, he's willing to take this chance since he feels that the wine is his. And even if he loses the sale, he still has the wine. He still has the wine. Can go ahead and do with it further business. However, where the Jew can remove the wine whenever he wants, so the idolater does not feel he has a claim to it. And he's therefore afraid to be caught entering so that he would not look like a thief, as we learned in the previous Mishnah. So the bottom line is that the Chachamim Beit Shan answered it, and therefore the wine is also because of the concern that he may have performed a libation with it. Meaning that the wine is also be'ano in this case, even if it was secured with a lock and seal. So let's summarize. Let's summarize. If kosher wine is left in the property of the idolater, it is permitted only when 3 conditions are met. Condition 1, the only entrance to the storage place faces the public street. Condition 2, there are Jews living in the town who can walk by and see the idolater entering the place. In condition 3, the idolater gives up the right to hold the wine until he is paid. Now, in addition to this, we need to also understand that the first 2 conditions are necessary only if the wine is unsealed and unlocked. whereas the third condition is always required. Now, if any of these three conditions are not met, the wine is asur unless there is a Jewish watchman to guard the wine, unless there is a mashgiach there, either constantly or yotze v'nichnas at minimum. So according to the first Tana, the wine is also only when it is stored in the property of the idolater who owned it. Whereas according to Rav Shimon ben Elazar, we learned it is also regardless of which idolater stores it. That sums it up. Okay, we finished Perek Dalet.